Try to avoid that, but I can't. Can't keep doing this. I've done it since 21. At 80, you decide enough is enough. Robert Redford transformed in ways no one could have imagined after a tragic experience. Loss and suffering weigh on the iconic actor as his 90th birthday approaches. His sorrowful and strong narrative lies underneath his fame and glamour. Has it been hard for him behind the scenes? How did this Hollywood actor become who he is? Come learn about Robert Redford's painful hardships and quiet strength that have never been revealed. It became one of my best partnerships, life of sadness and strength. Many Hollywood fans associate Robert Redford with success, charisma, and confidence. For decades, his appearances in The Sting and Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid have been beloved. Fame hides a tragic and valiant narrative. As Redford approaches his 90th birthday, we consider the hardships and losses that formed his personality and view of fame and life. His life was full of greatness beyond acting. It was also about personal anguish and issues. Born August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, his parents were Martha Hart and Charles Redford. Charles Redford was a milkman before accounting, who supported her son's ambitions. His early years were promising until tragedy struck at 18. He was heartbroken when his mother Martha died in 1955. His guilt at ignoring her as a child lingered for years. Martha perished from complications after giving birth to twin girls who died. Even though physicians urged her not to conceive again, she wanted more children. Unfortunately, her tenacity produced a blood disease that killed her as a teenager. Her death left a great hole in his life and started numerous lifelong issues. He struggled with loneliness and despair after his mother died. The arts comforted him, which brought him to Hollywood. He had a difficult rise to prominence. Teenage rebellion put him into trouble. Small thefts and risky drag racing. One person was arrested for stealing gold during this time. He concluded that this occurrence awakened him up and drove him to improve his life. Despite these issues, he received a sports scholarship to the University of Colorado and joined the baseball team. His enthusiasm for art soon surpassed sports. His college freedom drove him astray. His excessive drinking cost him his scholarship. It forced him to stop school. Though he failed, it was another turning point. He studied painting in Europe to start anew. He saw things differently and felt purposeful again following the encounter. He returned to the US to become an actor, changing his life permanently. He was brave through his difficult route, making him a Hollywood legend. What were his marital issues? Increasing melancholy. Robert was admired worldwide, but his personal issues were hidden. He married Lola Van Wagenen in 1958. Soon their frail infant son Scott died, devastating the young parents. Since they were struggling financially, the loss was devastating. Redford considered this his worst time. Despite the pain, he and Lola kept building their family. Shauna, Jamie, and Amy were their next children. But their issues continued. Hyaline membrane disease caused Jamie, their second son, to be born prematurely and have respiratory issues. This threatened his life. Jamie survived despite the odds, but the family was scarred for years, and Redford worried about it. He struggled with seeing his kids fight as a father. He once stated witnessing his kids suffer hurt him most. Jamie, a youngster with additional health difficulties, was severely affected. A long-term illness that finally caused cirrhosis of the liver. He got a new liver when he was 31 years old, which gave his family hope. That being said, problems meant he had to have another replacement. Redford and his family were under a lot of stress and fear. He was always there for his son, even though he was a busy actor and director. To be with Jamie in the hospital every weekend while Quiz Show was being filmed in New York, he flew there. Jamie finally got better and made a meaningful life for himself as a filmmaker and environmental activist. People used to think that his marriage to Lola Van Wagenen was one of the best in Hollywood. While he was still a rising star, they got married and worked hard to make their marriage last. But their friendship was shaped by both their own tragedies and his busy Hollywood job. The first few years of their marriage were hard. Even though they only had $300, they were motivated to make their lives stable. But the death of their first child, Scott, left them with mental wounds that never really healed. As his fame grew, he spent a lot of time away from home, leaving his wife to take care of the house and the kids' health problems by herself. Lola gave up her own hopes and dreams to take care of her family, which was very hard for her. After that, his career took off, and big movies like The Natural and Out of Africa kept him away from home for months at a time. Their relationship was stressed by the distance, and after 28 years of marriage, they split up in 1985. In an interview in 2001, he said that they both felt bad about the choice to get a divorce. Even after their marriage ended, Redford and Lola stayed close friends because they loved their kids so much. He talked about how sad he was about the breakup and how it would affect their family as he thought back on the time they had spent together. What kind of sadness was worse for Robert Redford than when his children died? A dad's worst fear come true. People see the star of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as a man who has made a lot of money and fame, but Redford's real life is much more complicated than what he shows on screen. He has been very successful, but he has also been through a lot of hard times and losses that have shaped his path. In 2020, when his son Jamie died at age 58 from liver cancer, it was one of the saddest times in his life. Redford had already been through a lot of bad things in his life, so this loss hit him hard. The link between a father and son was strong because they both loved stories and taking care of nature. As an artist and environmentalist, Jamie left behind a legacy of hope and love. He had 2 liver replacements and a lot of health problems, but his life was cut short, leaving his dad with a hole in his heart that could never be filled. Redford likes to keep to himself, so he decided to grieve alone with his family at his ranch in Utah. During this hard time, his family also asked for privacy. A spokeswoman named Cindy Berger said that Jamie was a loving son, husband, and father who made everyone he met feel good. Redford lost another kid, which was a painful reminder of how short life is. This loss added to the many bad things that had already happened to him. It's hard to imagine how sad it must be to lose a child, but it wasn't the first time that he had felt that way. He had talked about how painful it was for him to see his kids suffer, and Jamie's death brought this up again. Everyone in the world was sad for him, but he showed that fame can't keep someone from facing life's hardest problems. He had problems as a father long before Jamie's health problems. He had lost his child, which is every parent's worst fear. The first son of Redford and Lola Scott died of SIDS when he was only 10 weeks old. The young couple was already having a hard time with money, and this loss broke their hearts. Back then, not many people knew much about SIDS, so they both had a lot of questions and years of silent sadness. Their marriage was deeply hurt when they lost their baby. He didn't talk about it much in public because he wanted to keep his pain to himself. He didn't talk about how much it hurt him until years later in interviews and autobiographies. He quietly backed studies into SIDS, hoped that other families won't have to go through the same pain. Because of this trauma, he was always afraid of losing the people he cared about the most. He became protective of his other children, and this feeling got stronger after something scary happened to his daughter Shauna. She lost control of her car near Salt Lake City, and it fell into the freezing Jordan River. Someone bravely jumped into the cold water to help her. Even though he was glad she was safe, her father was reminded again how fragile life is. Even though his son and daughter were very close to dying, Redford's family went through another tragedy in 1983 when his daughter Shauna's fiancé, Sid Wells, was killed. He was found dead in his room. He had been shot in the head. His friend Dane Smyka was the main suspect. But because there wasn't enough proof, Smyka was freed and later disappeared, leaving the murder case unsolved. The Redford family felt the effects of this unsolved crime a lot, was brokenhearted and troubled by the questions that remained about his death. Redford was very upset and often thought about how the murder of his daughter's fiancé felt like another terrible turn of events. Even though police are trying again to catch Smyka, the case is still open, which casts a dark shadow over the family. When the shocking deaths of family and friends put his strength to the test. A unique friendship. For the first time, Robert Redford was known in Hollywood in 1950. His big break came when he played the lead role in the Broadway play Barefoot in the Park with Elizabeth Ashley. His good looks and natural ability made filmmakers notice him right away, which led to his first big movie part in 1965's Inside Daisy Clover with Natalie Wood. This was the start of a very close friendship between Redford and Wood that would last throughout Wood's career. Natalie Wood's life was tragically cut short in 1981, and no one knows why. She drowned while on a boat trip with Christopher Walken, her husband Robert Wagner, and others. Redford was very sad because he had become close to Wood while working with him. He had looked up to her as a friend and as a coworker. Her death hit him hard, and it made him think about how fragile life is. In later years, he talked about how much he liked Natalie Wood as a person, not just her fame. In the movie Inside Daisy Clover, Wood helped Redford get his start in show business. He loved her very much and would always remember her. As his life went through ups and downs, he found strength and comfort in his friends, especially one with fellow actor Paul Newman. They became friends while working on the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It was impossible to deny that they got along on screen, and it spilled over into their personal lives as well. That they respected each other and had a funny, naughty sense of humor about. They were known for pulling jokes on each other. Redford once gave Newman an old, dented Porsche for his 50th birthday. Newman then had the car crushed and gave it back to Redford as a sculpture. They always had this friendly competition, but it was clear that they were closer than just jokes. Newman was there for him when his 28-year marriage to Lola Van Wagenen ended in 1985. He said that their friendship was more than just a Hollywood friendship. He said that it was like having a brotherly bond with them that got him through some of his hardest times. During personal problems, he also looked to Newman because he knew he could always count on his friend to be there for him. Newman died in 2008, which was sad. It was terrible for Redford. He said that losing Newman was like losing a brother. He often thought about how much fun and happiness they had together over the years, which was very different from the sadness he had been through in his life. The deaths of Natalie Wood and Paul Newman were big emotional turning points for him. They also made him realize how important friendship is in his life. How did he handle his difficult relationship with fame and his place in Hollywood history? How much fame costs. Although Robert has done a lot of great things, he has always had a hard time with fame. Many people loved him because of his rugged good looks and obvious charm. Still, he often said that he didn't like all the attention that came with being famous. He wanted to be known for his skills instead of how he looked. The kind of anger he often showed to those close to him. He had a hard time with fame when he wasn't cast as Benjamin Braddock in The Graduate because the directors thought he was too good-looking to play a character who had problems with women effectively. He didn't do badly in school, it was just his looks that kept him from getting some jobs. He used to complain that people only notice his hair, teeth, and looks and not how well he acts. He took charge of his business by moving behind the camera because he was tired of being cast in the same roles. He won the Academy Award for Best Director in 1980 for Ordinary People. This change made Robert Redford focus on telling stories in a new way and get away from the fake parts of Hollywood fame that people only see on the surface. He stopped just playing in big-budget movies and started working on more important projects that showed what he really cared about and what he believed in. He was able to find more personal happiness outside of the bright lights of Hollywood thanks to this big change in his life and work. But as he thinks back on his work, he says that the stress of keeping up a certain public image has been very hard on him over the years. As he got older, he became pickier about the jobs he took on, only working on projects that fit with his personal values. He said that The Old Man and the Gun and movies like All Is Lost would be his last roles so he could leave the spotlight on his own terms. His choice to stop acting was based on his desire for a calmer life without having to deal with Hollywood's constant demands. He does admit, though, that decades in the public eye have changed him, and there are times when he wishes he could have lived a different life. In addition to being an actor, one of his most lasting contributions to independent film is the Sundance Institute, which he started in 1981. The Sundance Film Festival, which takes place every year in Park City, Utah, has become a famous place for independent films. It has helped directors like Steven Soderbergh, Ava DuVernay, and Quentin Tarantino get their start. He wanted to make a place where artists could tell their stories without having to worry about making money. He thought movies could make people think differently and question the way things are usually done. An idea that has made Sundance a cultural phenomenon that has changed the way media and stories are told in general. He still really wants to support the arts, even though he will no longer be the public face of Sundance in 2019. The festival's success is still due in large part to his commitment to discovering new artists and supporting independent views. But how has Robert Redford's getting older changed his job, his health, and his personal life? Health problems and getting older take their toll. Robert Redford is getting close to 90 years old, and he has to deal with the normal wear and tear that comes with age. He was often called one of Hollywood's most handsome leading men and was known for having a great body. But as he got older, his health got worse and he could no longer escape them. He had been able to live a healthy, busy life for years by hiking, skiing, and doing other outdoor activities at his Utah ranch. But the hard physical work he did when he was younger started to catch up with him. He has been honest about the aches and pains that come with getting older. He also talks a lot about how he needs more rest now that he used to have a lot of energy. The way he acts has changed, and his family and friends have noticed. They say he seems more serious and reflective. He has said that getting older has made him take things more slowly and think about what's important. Besides the changes in his body, he has also lost friends and family over the years, which has been hard on him emotionally. He felt lonely after the deaths of close friends like Paul Newman and others from his days as a movie star. He doesn't talk about it much, but the difference in how quiet his life is now makes it clear. People who know him say he's not as active as he used to be, even though he still works on his art and environmental projects. Even with all of these problems, he stays strong. Protecting the earth is one of the things he fights for because he thinks it is part of his legacy. Because he works with the Sundance Institute and supports independent movies, he makes sure that his impact on the business will last long after he's gone. But it's clear that this Hollywood legend's almost 90 years have left their mark. How have the hard things in his life made him the person he is today? A life of thought. He is getting close to his 90th birthday, and his life is a strong story of good times and bad. As a person, Redford's life was full of deep sadness and loss. His soul will always be changed by the deaths of his mother and children, the deaths of close friends, and the end of his marriage. He has shown courage through it all by using his pain to fuel his interests. It's become more important to him to think about the things he's learned along the way. He knows that being famous made him rich and famous, but it also cost him things that he wasn't always willing to pay. Taking a break from acting to focus on his personal life shows that he wants peace after living a life in the spotlight all his life. The simple things in life now bring him comfort. Spending his days with his grandkids and being close to family and nature are what he loves. Putting in time on environmental projects and thinking quietly about a life that has been anything but normal. His story shows that people can keep going, change, and find value in their lives, even when things are hard. Many people will always remember him as the cool Sundance Kid, the charming Jay Gatsby, or the brave reporter in All the President's Men. But for people who know his story, he's a lot more than that. He has dealt with life's hardest problems with grace. As a father, he was there for his kids when they were having the worst times. As a friend, he put loyalty above all else. As the end of his life draws near, he stands as a symbol of strength and a reminder that there is always a way to find peace and redemption, even when things look very bad. He is getting close to 90 years old, and his influence goes far beyond movies. Hollywood, independent films, and environmental causes will always remember him. Now that the new year has come and gone, he is quietly celebrating on his quiet ranch in Utah. He leaves behind a story of bravery and service to causes he cares about. His life, which had both good and bad times, shows how strong the human spirit is and will serve as an example for future generations. What do you think about the terrible things Robert Redford has been through? What else could his problems tell us about his life? Please tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to share, like, and follow for more. Also, click on the next video that comes up. It will be fun for you.